Shea Station.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Shea Station podcast. A bit of a unique episode today. For those who didn't see, MLB.com just released their prospect rankings for 2024, their top 100 list, and their top 30 list for every team. So I thought it would be very fitting to interview two Mets prospects on the list today. So I don't have Jerry Blevins with me today, but I have two other Mets pitchers to fill that void. The first one that you're going to hear an interview from first is Christian Scott, who's ranked number 5 in the system, recently was reassigned to minor league camp, and many people are excited about him, and you'll find out why in our interview. And then after that, it's number 14, Dom Hamel, also reassigned to minor league camp, but recently pitched in the WBC and has plenty of interesting stories to tell. So if you guys enjoyed today's interview episodes, make sure to leave a like on the video if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe to the Shea Station YouTube channel. Or if you're listening on podcast apps, consider leaving us a review. We'd really appreciate it. But without further ado, here's a brief conversation between me and number 5 Mets prospect, Christian Scott. I'm so pleased to have Christian Scott joining the show today, recently ranked the number 5 prospect in the Mets system for 2024. He's a pitcher. People are very excited about him. I'm very excited to chat with you, man. Thank you for stopping on Shea Station today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you guys.
So I first just want to kick off with, I guess, a simple question, which is on everybody's mind. You recently got to be at Mets spring training. Of course, recently you got reassigned to minor league camp. Is there just anything you want to address off the top from your experience so far in Port St. Lucie, getting to be with the team, getting to pitch in spring training games?
No, yeah, it was definitely just a fun experience for me. Just being able to go out there and just kind of see what these guys do on a day-to-day basis. You know, it's a little bit different from my experience, from what I've seen on the minor league side, and to go to the big league side and see how they handle their business and how they keep their body healthy. So just kind of picking little tidbits up from different people, see what works for them. You know, it's whether it's, you know, you're struggling through a season or you're having a great season, you know, there's always different things that go on throughout the course of a season. So just trying to learn, you know, what makes them special, you know, what's getting them to this point. So just kind of soaking all that all in and getting as much information as I could.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I mean, I was looking into your stuff. Your journey is really interesting to me because you basically kind of overhauled a lot of your pitching arsenal. I read an article where you described your old curveball as something loopy, and that's something you want to get rid of. You're now a fastball, changeup, slider guy. What was the process like of, you know, changing your repertoire that you probably once trusted to something completely new?
Yeah, I mean, so back in high school, I was throwing mostly 4 seams and this kind of like a slurvy pitch. It was like 78, 79, you know, it was good for high school, but like in the SEC in college, it's not going to do a whole lot for me. So I had a conversation with Sully, right? Pretty much the first day that I was there, and he's like, "Hey man, listen, we're gonna learn a slider." So I was like, "All right, perfect, sounds good," you know. So that day, actually, after that, I went over and was trying to find different slider grips. Went on Pitching Ninja, and you know, found Scherzer was talking about his slider when he was on the Nationals, and just trying to emulate kind of that same feel, that same, you know, grip that he had, and just trying to manipulate it and make it my own. And then after that in college, you know, just my first year was really struggling in pro ball, trying to find this changeup. You know, I never really had one to be able to throw. And for me, I was able to find one in the fall league. So that was a great experience for me. You know, I got touched up a little bit in the fall league, but for me, I look back and that was something that happened. That was great for me personally. So being able to go out there and, you know, realizing that I got to get better. And so this changeup's going to be something that takes me to that next level. And so that was a huge addition for me in my repertoire. And then this offseason, really attacking a sweeper, you know, with Grayson Crawford with new AAA pitching coach, Kyle Rogers, Eric Jagers. I mean, they've done an unbelievable job, you know, just helping me out with whether it's my mechanics or pitch grip or, you know, just mental capacity on the mound, just learning different things that I can and taking it day by day for sure.
Yeah, you actually you took my next question right out of my mouth. I was going to ask you about that Max Scherzer clip, which Tim Healy did a great piece on Newsday for. Do you think you would have been able to like hone and discover that slider had you not seen that clip? Because it's such a small moment in time, but there's so many stories of pitchers just seeing one thing in a video that completely changes how they throw a pitch.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, for me, it was a little bit of a confidence thing too, because looking at Scherzer's throw it, it's a little bit different than seeing like one of your buddies throw it. You know what I mean? Where you've seen this guy throw it and he's a Hall of Fame pitcher, you know, and somebody you've looked up to your whole life, and you're able to see like, okay, this is exactly how he does it. And so it's almost like a little bit of a confidence thing too, where it's like, all right, if he can do it, you know, maybe I could do it too. So I think that's a lot of a lot of how that went. I maybe would have learned it without it, but I think for my confidence and for me to be able to, really hone in on, I think it was cool to be able to see it from him specifically.
Yeah, just another way Max Scherzer's legacy affects the Mets a little bit.
Absolutely.
You mentioned your pitching coaches with the Mets right now, specifically Eric Jagers as well. I wanted to ask you, because the Mets have been trying to champion this new pitching lab, and you bring David Stearns in. He's known for creating these great bullpens and rotations. For you specifically, like, how often do you find yourself diving into like the very niche data of like things like vertical approach angle and like horizontal run and like all these things that may be a foreign concept to more like standard baseball fans? Like, do you guys spend a lot of time honing in on stuff like that?
I wouldn't say a lot of time. I've thrown in the lab. I think I've thrown 2 or 3 bullpens in the lab. So what they'll do is they'll stick like a bunch of little sensors on you. You go throw on your underwear and, trying to turn as fast as you can. So it's a cool experience to be able to go out there. It's like, I don't know how many cameras, but a lot of cameras are just zoned in on you. So I actually saw this offseason, Kyle Rogers actually from one of my videos in the lab was able to see that, hey, if my back leg is staying more over the rubber as I'm driving down the mound, I'm able to consistently sustain velo. Right. Like throughout my start, rather than, if I'm pushing too much on my toe, then like I wouldn't be able to see that with naked eyes. Like the lab's really good for something like that. But in terms of like vertical approach and things like that, like we do definitely, like when you're pitch designing, that's a big thing, whether you're learning a sweeper, a changeup grip, whether, if you're trying to get more horizontal movement on your changeup or more vertical break on your fastball, like that's different things that we look at when you're pitch designing. But once you kind of get like the basis of what you're trying to do, then it's almost just trying to get cues from then on. So the ballpark that you're trying to be in, like the sphere that you're trying to be in, but just being able to repeat that at the same level, that's more of just going out there and competing and really like, vertical approach is great, vertical break is great and horizontal break is great, but that's not going to win you games, right? So you got to go out there and compete with that same mindset. Like that's a great baseline to start with, but at the same time, when you go on the game, you're not thinking about any of that stuff. You're just trying to compete at a high level.
Yeah, I respect that answer, because there's a whole nother layer of analysis for pitchers that I think a lot of fans aren't super aware about, especially with the younger crop. For you, was there like a culture shock kind of thing when you transitioned from Florida to this Met staff and there's all this technology and all these new ways of thinking towards pitching? Like, was there an adjustment period for you, or was it kind of seamless?
I would say it was kind of seamless originally. I think our draft class did a really good job of helping each other out. When we first got there, Carter Capps was kind of our overseer when he was first there originally, and just we were able to go out there and just go have a lot of fun, in our first couple of days there, and go out there and be like, hey, like your stuff's really good. Like, what do you do? Right. Like, what do you do? Cool. Like for Dom, is playing catch with Dom something that's unbelievable. It's really hard to explain, but like when you're playing catch with them, it's like, if you don't, it's like the ball hits the top of your glove every time because the spin is so pure. Right. So it's like, Dom, how did you, how is this happening right now? So just like different things that you can pick up from other people. So it was a pretty seamless transition. But the coaching staff has done an unbelievable job, and just the player development staff's done an unbelievable job, especially with, the group of guys in our draft class, especially just coming out and helping us dramatically, changing our repertoires dramatically to be able to compete at a high level. Yeah,
I mean, between you and Tidwell and Hamel, it's really nice to see kind of a group of guys coming up together that all fulfill that same role. It's reminiscent of those mid-2010s teams that brought up all the pitchers at the same time with Thor and Harvey and all those guys. And 2024, it's going to be kind of a weird year. I think Mets fans are very aware of the situation in terms of like, we're aiming for next year. 2025 is the window, but we're still going to try and compete. Like, are you setting sort of goals for yourself this year to make the major league club, or is it all about development, making sure I'm going at my own pace and ensuring I have, the best possible future for myself?
For me, I'm not really trying to look at it as a failure. If I don't make the major league club, or like a succeed if I do make it, right. It's just kind of taken as a day-by-day process where how can I make myself better that day, right? And everything else is going to take care of itself after that, where if I go out there and compete at a high level and do it, I know I'm capable of doing that, I'm going to be able to succeed. You know what I mean? So it's not, I'm not too focused on, when am I going to make it? How am I going to make it? It's just taking it day by day, because that's the only thing you can really control. It's, for me, the biggest thing that I have is control the controllables, because that's really all you can do. You know what I mean? You can't worry too much about the future. You can't worry too much about the past, because you can't do anything about that. So as long as you're controlling day by day, everything else will take care of itself.
A very veteran answer, I gotta say, for sure. Christian, that is actually all I got for you, man. This was an absolute pleasure. I'm really excited to see what else is in store for you in 2024 and beyond. And I hope spring training was everything it could have been for you.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for chatting, man.
Thank you.
All right, well, a lot of fun tidbits from that interview. If you're really into pitch data and all that nerdy stuff, Christian Scott is a dream interview to have. So we really appreciate him coming on the show. Up next, we got Dom Hamel. We hope you guys are enjoying today's episode. And if you have any questions you want to leave for us for our next episode, make sure you leave a comment down below on the YouTube page. And if you're already there, consider subscribing as well. But without further ado, here's number 14 Mets prospect pitcher Dominic Hamel. I'm joined by a very special guest today. As always, I like to have a pitcher co-host. It's just not Jerry Blevins today. Instead, it's top Mets pitching prospect Dom Hamel, who's working on some fun stuff down in Port St. Lucie. Pitched in the World Baseball Classic last year, and you could see him with the Mets Ball Club as soon as 2024. Dom, I'm so happy you're on the show, man. Thank you for coming on.
For sure. Thank you for inviting me. Anything to keep me aroused here in St. Lucie, you know?
What are you talking about, man? There's always like a ton to do down there. Me and Jerry were down there.
Yeah, no, there's actually a lot to do. There's a circus and that's crazy stuff. It's cool.
Yeah, it's a super lively town. Yeah, we were able to make it down last year. There's a lot of great Mets-related baseball things, but if you're looking for quite literally anything else, Port St. Lucie is not the ideal destination. But we're happy to have you, man. Thank you for making some time for us.
Yeah, of course.
So obviously this is kind of a big year for you. I mean, we just talked at length about the Mets offseason and how it's been kind of strange, like very much not like the last two that we've been through where they're signing these big pitchers to $40 million deals. And, you know, the team that I really loved growing up was obviously that 2015 team that went to the World Series. And the thing that was really special about it was that it was like a lot of homegrown talent, you know, all the pitchers in that rotation were our guys. Like we developed them, we brought them up. And since that team, I feel like that's been a core piece that's missing from a lot of the Mets teams that I'm going on to watch year in and year out, which is why I'm so excited for guys like you and Mike Vaisel and Christian Scott. So I wanted to ask you first a question about somebody else, if that's okay. I wanted to ask you, with all the guys you've been playing with down in Binghamton and Brooklyn, is there some other Mets prospect that has really like caught your eye as a teammate that you feel like not enough people are talking about in the Mets system?
I mean, honestly, most of the guys with the praise, you know, those are the guys we've been working with, guys who I've been drafted with and kind of come a long way with. It always helps when, you know, you got a good friend. And the best part I like working about them is none of them are yes men. Like, sure. You know, we'll watch each other throw and it's all constructive after, and it definitely makes it easier to develop. I can't put my finger on anyone. There's just really everyone's been pretty level-headed, and everyone that we still got been fun to work with. You know, like you said, Mike, Blade, Christian, Tyler Stewart, like that core five of pitchers in the farm team. Still, it's been super cool to watch all their successes and then understand, you know, how we all came from relatively the same draft class and just kind of climbing the ranks all together. And, you know, just being able to talk about that as players and people outside of the field, that's made it a lot easier for sure. And then it's just, like you said, it's been really cool to see. Obviously Papa Steve's got the budget to go sign guys and do all that stuff, but seeing the trust they have in the young guys and how they want us to lead and just go about our business at these camps with the new draft guys, it says a lot what they think about us. And, you know, it's kind of just nice to know that they got trust in us.
Yeah. I mean, that's I feel like a side of the coin that like, it's really hard for fans to think about. Like you want the big marquee free agents, you want the team to spend as much money as possible on the talent to get the best roster out there. But like a big part of, you know, having confidence in your youth of your team is, you know, allowing them to get those opportunities when the time comes. And that's why, you know, a large section of the fan base is, I'm thinking like, okay, we're not a World Series favorite this year. We're not going to win the offseason this year. So they're not even getting excited at the prospect of Mets baseball this year. But you have to think on the flip side, man, like that 2015 team that I alluded to before, no one had them pegged as any sort of National League champion. And it was the youth movement coming together and all that talent infusing into the roster that really brought the magic. So that's a big reason why I'm looking forward to 2024 baseball so much. And I guess I'll ask this general question because, you know, you're a big time prospect and like you're going to be in AAA this year, which is really exciting. That's kind of the last leg before you get some major league time. Obviously, outside of making the big leagues, that's everyone's number one goal when they're in the minors. What's like a big goal of yours for this 2024 season? What does Dom Hamel want to improve upon outside of just reaching that pinnacle of Major League Baseball?
I mean, if I had to be picky, just consistent cutter shape, new cutter grip. I'm working with different drills and stuff of that nature. But I mean, really just the dreams in itself. Like I got a lot of East Coast family out there. So just getting there, obviously that's half the battle and that's half the dream. But, you know, I want that to be sustainable and, you know, I want to be a 10-year guy if I can for sure. But I guess the biggest thing would just be, you know, just I envisioned it like just city field with my family out there. Like I couldn't want anything more. I got so much love over there on the East Coast, on that Northeast side. My dad's family's from Poughkeepsie, so it just
Nice.
it's been really easy for them to just travel around and catch games, you know, when they're close on the road and then obviously at home. But yeah, really it's just I want so bad, and everything I dreamed of as a kid is like making my professional outing, you know, wherever obviously, but being that we're closer, it's Met Stadium, you know, we're out there at City, and if I could just see my family's faces in the crowd and just like we can acknowledge each other, like, because that's always been my family's always been able to come to our games and stuff, playing in Arizona, and then Dallas was a little harder, but you know, when they came out there, just the feeling of seeing their faces coming off like a good outing, like there's just it's incomparable. I can't even put it in words. So just being able to share that moment with them, that's what I'm shooting for sure. And then hopefully have a lot more of those moments down the road.
Yeah, I like that you got sentimental there at the end and saved the nerdy stuff for the beginning. But I actually wanted to talk to you about your cutter because you added 2 new secondary pitches last year, if I'm correct here, with the cutter and the sweeper. And I find that kind of thing interesting because you were a big changeup guy. That was a big out pitch for you. And then you took a lot of strides last year in AA. Like you guys really showed out and made the Rumble Ponies an exciting team to watch. So like, what was that process like? Because I know it must be hard for a pitcher to pick up a new weapon on the fly, but actually not get so frustrated and want to drop it when it's not immediately working, because that's the kind of thing that doesn't yield immediate results. What was the process of adding that sweeper? And is that kind of a similar process that you're trying to emulate now with your cutter as well?
Yeah, in a sense. I mean, like everything, trying everything new, there's always a trial and error kind of transition period. And the sweeper is something I got showed at our first early camp last year. And so I really had only been playing with it for, you know, 3 weeks really before I took it into spring training. And at that time, it was kind of comparing it to my college slider, which was like 3-3, like not even crazy, just, you know, strike pitch. And that was my comfort strike pitch, bread and butter with, you know, fastball. But I kind of strided away from approach really when I started working the slider, because the slider came first and the cutter was just kind of something to show.
Right.
But, you know, or the sweeper, and then having inconsistencies with the sweeper, I started changing my usage, throwing cutter more, and it kind of just messed up my whole arsenal. So that's kind of the tough part of, you know, working your way through the ranks. You know, no one ever sees, you know, the trial and error and, you know, how many nights it takes of looking at the portal and just trying to get right with your grip and whatnot. But really, it's just the staff. Like I came to a point where the beginning of the year was like, I can't throw my sweeper for a strike right now. Like, I feel like I have to create all this like unnatural stuff for me. And I don't like it. I'd rather go to my old slider. But, you know, guys like Eric Jagers and AJ Sager, who I was working with, they were just like, listen, the stuff grade on this pitch when you throw it well is really good. And it could really help you based on our point system. Like, I think your best bet is to stick it out and really work with it. And so, you know, you get banged up a couple of times, you walk a couple guys, but, you know, it's constructive at the end of each day, and it's only really a failure if you decide not to do anything about it. And so, you know, just really having the nuts to go back out there the next time and keep throwing it and trusting it. And then, you know, as you're working with your catchers and you see like that true shape and it's starting to come more consistently and you're getting weird takes, it's like, you know, maybe these guys are here to help me a little bit. So, so it's always a process, but, yeah, we're feeling good. We're feeling good with them both.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear. And I mean, it obviously means you're a much different pitcher than the guy you were when you were drafted. a guy drafted out of Dallas Baptist. And this was actually a question from Jerry. He made sure that I asked you because the first guest that we ever had was Mets reliever Drew Smith, who was
Okay.
super cool
Right
guy.
on.
Really came onto our show when we were much smaller and really helped us out. He's also a Dallas Baptist guy. So Jerry wanted me to inquire if there's any connection there with those two guys. I mean, like, has he reached out at all? Is there just like kind of an implied connection? What's the deal?
Yeah, no, for sure. There definitely is. I mean, we're not like buddy like that, but I mean, when I first started going to DBU, he was there working out. You know, he's fresh off a trade to the Mets, and then it was really kind of after my junior year during the COVID draft, the 5-round draft. You know, kind of got screwed over in that.
Yeah.
You know, it just fell through, and then I was back at DBU early doing like off-season work, and he was there working out too. So I got to pick his brain on some stuff. You know, we're pretty different pitchers, but you know, when you're an athlete at this kind of level, there's a lot in common. So, you know, pretty much telling him my story and like how JUCO, how this draft went, and you know, I was just we were in there at a time when there wasn't a lot of guys working out, and we're all in there busting our ass, and you know, he could see like that fire in my eyes. So it's kind of just like little chit chats during our workouts where he's like, "I'm gonna be looking out for you, bro. Like you're working your ass off. Like something's bound to happen." And then lo and behold, we get turned over to the Mets, and yeah, then I saw him a couple times last year. He came over and watched me throw a couple times on the backfields, and then yeah, threw in that inter squad before I left to the Classic in February. But I mean, we keep in touch, not on a regular basis, but it's just little stuff like, you know, congrats on the year, see you're doing well, that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, looking forward to spending the spring, be up at big league camp with him, picking his brain a little more. It'll be cool to catch up. And yeah, he's a good dude though. He's a cool cat.
I'm glad you brought up the Classic there at the end because that's actually the last thing I want to talk about because
transition like that.
Yeah, see, you know, you have the podcast brain, man. You're built for this. Once the pitching career is wrapped up, you just give me a call, okay? That's all I'm saying.
I got you. I'll intern.
But I mean, you getting to be on Team Puerto Rico must have been an absolute dream come true. I mean, I just pulled up this roster again just for reference and looking up and down at the names that are on this team. It's absolutely insane.
Absurd.
So I can't imagine how you're feeling last year coming into a situation where players that have been around for 10 plus years, whatever, they're calling this environment akin to a World Series game. And you're stepping into that environment as this young kid with maybe, you know, someone feeling like they have a lot to prove at this level. So can you just take me through that entire experience? Because I'm sure you're remembering every step of it at this point, just trying to, you know, recapture that kind of baseball feeling.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it just started last year pitching in Brooklyn at the end. Or in St. Lucie, actually, our pitching coach, Vic Ramos, he is very good friends with Yachty and has helped coach for previous Classic teams. And, you know, being that as part of my heritage and, you know, I was going through some family stuff that like kind of would have been like a storybook opportunity to like, you know, represent my family and my heritage. So, yeah, that kind of came around in the off season. And yeah, I remember getting the call from Vic, and he's like, "Hey, bro, I got someone wants to say something to you," and it's Yachty. He turns the phone over. He's like, "Bro, I'm just letting you know we're picking up your contract. You're gonna be our last pitcher." And I was like, share that with my grandparents. Like we're all crying and shit.
It's like getting drafted again. That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty much. And like it just the year before, right before I got drafted, I lost my mom, unfortunately, and she was the one who had the Puerto Rican heritage. So just seeing like what a blessing it was. Like I remember I literally was sending over my my birth certificate and I was looking through my files, and as I opened it, like a picture of my mom, she was in the newspaper because she won the Miss Ohio beauty pageant. She's wearing her Miss Puerto Rico dress. As I'm getting the birth certificate, it falls out and I just get goosebumps and I'm crying. I'm like, God, this is crazy. And then, yeah, we get there, and obviously I'm nervous, as you can imagine. But, you know, that's the one thing I learned from those guys is, like, if you could be any big leaguer, be a cool big leaguer. And that doesn't mean, like, got all the cool rah-rah hype stuff. Like, you know, like, these guys are welcoming. They're attentive to all their teammates. Like guys like Lindor. Lindor came up to me before we even left to the Classic, like, after our scrimmage, and he's like, "Man, just hearing your story, man, it fires us up. We're all excited to have you. Like, we're here for anything you need. Let us know." You know, obviously the staff, but you got some veterans to work with too. So yeah, just picking brains here and there when I could along that whole process. And I think the craziest part of it all is just like you said, it's not even just a World Series. Like at things like Game 7 World Series,
Right.
especially like a DR PR game or DR Venezuela, whatever. Um, and you just see how these guys have that switch. Like it's beginning of February, early mid February, like when spring training, I'm just getting loose and
Right, right,
stuff.
right.
These boys are just wired to the max, locked in, full, World Series playing style. And it's like obviously they're representing their families and their hometowns and stuff. And yeah, granted, I didn't get to pitch as much as I wanted to.
Sure, sure.
It was an experience in itself, just watching those guys and how they operate. And obviously, it's pro ball. Everyone's got their own gears that make them tick. But seeing those guys is different for sure.
Yeah, I mean, maybe next WBC you get the ball more often. We'd all love to see that, man. And I mean, I love that anecdote about Lindor because that's just that's got to speak to Mets fans. That's your leader, and he's making sure
100%. Like he's a captain for a reason, bro. Like
yeah.
Just guiding people. That's all he does. Like he gets his own work in. You don't got to worry about him slacking off, but he's just guiding people. It's just he's a glue guy to the heart. It's crazy.
Love to hear it, man. And I can't wait to see you, him, Edwin Diaz, all on the same team in 2024. Dom, I really appreciate you making some time for Shea Station. I know the listeners are absolutely going to love this episode. You present yourself awesomely, man. I cannot wait to see what you do in spring training this year.
For sure. Appreciate you, Jack.
Hey, be good, man. Thank you. And that'll do it for today's dual interview podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back next week with my normal pitcher co-host, Jerry Blevins, where we're going to talk about spring training storylines, everything to note for the roster construction of the Mets this year as we inch closer and closer to opening day, just a few weeks away at this point. So hopefully you're catching a little bit of fever for baseball season. Thank you guys for tuning in today. And now let's listen to that sweet outro music.
Shea Station, Jerry and Charlie. Shea Station, Jerry and